Hey guys, today we'll be recapping another regional that just happened at Mexico last weekend. And this was won by Daniel using Miraidon Dozo, top 8 Worlds team before, and has seen more play now as it just won. We also had an invader here, Marcus Dion, who made finals here, and in a very soul-crushing finals. So, first of all, Mexico Regionals wasn't technically recorded by official Pokemon company, but some of the spectators were able to record it, and I'll show you a glimpse of what happened in the last turn of finals. Yes, so Marcus Dion lost finals to a Heatwave burn on his Sash Chen Pal. The very last turn, when he thought he had it locked up, he lost. Really heartbreaking. I feel for Marcus so much. He's been chasing this for so long, and I remember we were watching this at Joe's house, and I screamed so loud after the burn happened. I woke him up, and it was the most funny thing ever. But yeah, super crazy finals, and some even super crazier teams. Like, you look around here, you see like Chesnaught, Iron Crown, Zacian here, and today we'll be breaking down all the teams that I have from top cut, and we'll be also briefly looking at some of the teams outside of cut to see the metagame here in Mexico. But first of all, of course, we got to start with the winning team. This is the Miraidon Dozo team. I featured this in the last video as well. Over here, I just have Mitsu spreads from top 8 worlds, and now that Virtue's back, some people are copying it and kind of showing that this team is actually really strong. Most commonly, we do see Miraidon with the choice specs and with Tailwind and such. But you see this team here, there's no Tailwind, and we have the Assault Vest here just to have that bulk. AB Miraidon is surprisingly bulky. You can take almost any hit with this thing. You can live Earth Power from Landorus. When you Terra Fairy with all this HP, you take multiple hits. It's like free shotting. It's a free KO on it for most times. And even though you're not choice specs, with Electric Terran, Hadron Engine, Draco Meteor is still one-shotting a lot of things. Drift is one-shotting a lot of things still, especially combined with that Beads of Ruin to make up from the choice specs damage. So, yeah, and Miraidon is also a really good partner with Dondozo, because Dondozo usually commits Terragraphs to prevent sleep. With Electric Terrain, you prevent Spore, and you kind of allow Dondozo to beat a lot of Among Us teams that tend to don't have Clear Smog. There's no Clear Smog. Dondozo is really hard to remove, basically. Tatsu is the Choice Scarf set with Terra Normal, just for a Shadow Rider. If you look at this team, it's actually a lot of Terra Normals, Terra Normal Dragonite, Terra Normal Tatsu, and then the Chi, of course, for extra counters into Shadow Rider. Dragonite's an interesting Pokemon on this team as well. You don't really see Dragonite on a lot of teams right now, but I think it makes a lot of sense on this team because this team has a lot of ways to chip down things into E-Speed range, so Dragonite becomes a really good late game cleaner. Dragonite's also really good at getting rid of Miraidon's kind of annoyance for it, such as Rillaboom and other grass types. Being able to sit in front of them also walls Ursh pretty well, allows it to kind of sit in the field and just deal damage back to it. Good at damage trading and revenge killing, of course. Chi, like I just mentioned, it's also really good for the Shadow Rider and boosting Miraidon. And also having these really good spread damage, like the combination of Heat Wave plus Gleam is really hard to stop. And yeah, Beats Ruin just kind of busted. With the Miraidon, you can also do it with the Goldango as well, another Pokemon we don't see often, which is also Terra Normal. I just forgot about that. Terra Normal, Terra Normal, Terra Normal. So, you know, versus CSR, you have a lot of good counterplay to it with offensive Terras, and just Wand Barrage, and then KOing it back with Shadow Ball, or Strong Make It Rain with Beads of Ruin. And it's also really good versus Ice Rider as well. Miraidon tends to not like Ice Rider, but on this team, Dozo walls it out. You Chi to outdamage it, and Goldango to also sit it for Among Us and also resist Glacial. And with the Ice Riders being often Terra Fairy now, Make It Rain's a pretty good counter for that. But yeah, moving on to the finalist team, we have Marcus Dion. And yeah, he's been kind of messing around with a bunch of archetypes. Like last regional he ran Groudon, at Worlds he ran CSR, and now he's running Zama Zena, and it's pretty similar to Michael Kelsch's Worlds team as well, with Entei Chanpao. The main differences with this team here is the Among Us and Dark Urshifu. Among Us we have seen a lot of these teams before recently, mostly because Dondozo is normally a big problem for Zama Zena. So you have that Spore and Sludge Bomb to pressure the Terra and to force the Terra, which is quite nice. And yeah, Zama here also has the Behemoth Bash. You have to run Iron Head actually to run it, but the Behemoth Bash is a good trend here right now for Zama because it allows you to hit Fairy Ice Rider. You also have Dark Urshifu here to have extra measure into Shadow Rider, and also good versus Dondozo, which I mentioned earlier. Double Dark is usually really good versus Shadow Rider. Often you usually see Chiyu on the slots, but the fire type is actually Entei, which abuses more on Chien-Pao. I think Entei is actually quite strong right now because having that priority to E-Speed is quite nice. And looking at Marcus's games that were live streamed on the spectators, the Entei actually put in a lot of work. Not being able to get faked out and intimidate is quite nice, and the strong fire damage is kind of broken on the Chien-Pao. The Flutter Mane here, normally it's Moonblast, Icy, and usually Shadow Ball you usually see, but Marcus opts for Taunt and Thunder Wave, so pure support. Thunder Wave allows you to kind of just have the extra speed control and also go for the Para Hacks, which is quite nice. And Taunt's really good at shutting down Trick Room and setup. But overall, a pretty cool take on Zama. It's like mostly standard, but the tech pieces of Goggles Ursh, Dark Urshifu, I think takes this, kind of puts it apart from all the other Zama teams right now. Next is another Zama team. This is actually a 1 month difference for Marcus's. So I just made it all the EVs the same basically besides the Ditto. And yeah, Ditto's pretty cool. Actually, it should be Imposter and Terra Ghost. Because Imposter is quite nice at copying other restricteds. Goggles Ditto is really good in the mirror, being able to copy Zama and you also get +2 from a shield when you Imposter it. It's also really good at copying stuff like Shadow Rider. Goggles Ditto is also really good versus Ice Rider. If you can copy Ice Rider instead of Among Us, this is a really annoyance. And then they have to deal with their Ditto Ice Rider and then your Zama in the field, and then it's almost impossible to break, basically. But yeah, very similar to the Marcus team, so I'm not going to touch too much on this. It's really the same sets, but the Ditto. The Ditto is just better at dealing with other restricteds if you can get it going. The only issue with Ditto, I think it's a little bit less consistent than Dark Urshifu, just because you do have to position it at the right time, but still very strong. Again, more Zama. Actually, look at this list. I think there is 4 Zama in Top Cut. So we're going over the top 4 one right now here. And this one's a little bit different. We have seen Tornadoes comps with Zama before. I think the best example I can give of this is the Juniors World's Finalist team. It had Torn, Zama, Chiyu, Bolt, and I believe there was Treads and Urshifu as the last 2 instead. So the changes here are Specs Fluttermane and Fergaraf. Fergaraf is kind of cool here at just denying Trick Room because it's a prison. Also gives you Astro Immunity. And just allows you to kind of just go fast instead because you have the very fast Tailwind, Flutter, Chiyu combo. So being able to deny Trick Room is quite nice with Imprison. Scarf Chiyu here. This is classic on a lot of Zama teams right now. Just because it's really good for Shadow Rider. Because you force a Ghost Terrors with Body Press, and then Chiyu can clean up late game basically. Raging Bolt, pretty classic set as well. If you're going Life Orb, I think you might as well go max speed for the mirror. You're also activating all the fast instants and Rilla-Booms for the most part. And it's just really good at just hitting really hard. Bolt's busted, it can beat Urshifu, it can hit all the Fire Water Grasses. It abuses Beats of Ruin quite well. It also abuses Sunny Day quite well. So with Sunny Day, you can boost your Raging Bolt attack, also boost your Chiyu attack as well, the fire moves here, and boost your Flutter main speed. For the Tornadoes here, I made actually 28 IVs here, so if you're in a Torn Mirror and they also have Rain Dance, they try to click Rain Dance first, your Sunny go last, and then you win the Weather War, and you need to be KO'd to turn back with your Flutter main or Raging Bolt or something. Zama, classic set. This one, the main difference though, it's actually Terra Ghost. So Terra Ghost is pretty cool in the mirror in particular. I think the reason why he went with this is because with Terra Dragon, which most people normally do with Zama, it's for Urshifu and like the Firewater Grass cores. But with Sunny Day to make weaken Urshifu, mostly Rapid Strike is probably the main thing why you have Terra Dragon. It allows you to kind of get away with Terra Ghost because of Sunny Day. And of course it's good in the mirror and dodges Fake Out. So a pretty cool option here. And again, like Fluttermane, going back to this, it's with Marcus's in the Ditto version, we've seen a lot of the boost your speed, but Sex is just going all on the offense with the Torn, Tailwind, Terra Fairy Dazzle, Chi-Yu Flutter, another notorious strong core. We don't usually see Specs often anymore. Like, the last time we've seen Specs was mostly in, like, I mean, honestly, the previous formats that we had before, but I think it's still pretty good. It makes sense with the sunny day and such, and I actually ran Specs Flutter myself at Indianapolis, so I see the vision. Top 8, we have Paris, former world champion, and he has a really strange team. It is a almost standard Kali Shadow team. We have seen these 5 on teams before. Normally, I think the Chesnaught is normally a Raging Bolt, but Chesnaught is here just for Wide Guard and Iron Defense Body Press. It also gets Feint to break opposing Wide Guard for a Shadow Rider, so that's pretty cool. I'm not so sure why it has to be Chesnaught in particular, but I think the tools I mentioned, it's only in this kit for this one Pokemon, so I guess it makes sense in that regard. And with Iron Defense Body Press, it allows it to be its own setup sweeper, unlike something frail like Manshell. Manshell gets very similar moves with Wide Guard and Feint, but usually it's sort of fake out close combat. But again, like with Iron Defense and Terra Water, I'm assuming this can make yourself a win condition versus Kali Ice teams. You can also beat out Zama Zenda teams pretty well too. So yeah, I think that's actually a pretty cool tech. I see the vision. And the side I gave it, I just hit the bump with the defense bump here. Max HP just cause, Restless but Death and Speed. Having Speed's nice for like faster Ice Raider, faster Instant, and abusing Tailwind a bit more. Whimsicott, having Tailwind is quite nice for a Shadow Rider, allowing to outpiece in the mirror, or just overwhelm slower teams is quite nice with Tailwind. Because normally Shadow Rider teams you see double fake out, no speed control, but I really do like the Whims for the speed control option, and also light screen to support yourself more in the mirror. Urshifu, it's over reliable. You need this on almost every Shadow Rider team. Actually, every Shadow Rider team should have it to hit your Dark and normal types that you can hit. And also, again, really good at clicking Surge Strikes in Tailwind. Instant here, standard Rocky Helmet set. This one opts for Taunt, though. Normally you see Wisp, but Taunt makes sense to die in a Trick Room, which can be hard on a Tailwind team, so I do like the Taunt here. Cornerstone. I think Cornerstone has been rising a lot more popularity because of Heart Flame usage. I think this could be either Jolly or Adamant. Adamant makes sense as well because you have Tailwind. I just went with Jolly here just because that's the most common set, but honestly, you can go either or. Agriculture like a truck and Follow Me such good support on setting up your sweeper and just supporting the rest of your kit here. Shadow Rider, standard set. I showed this in the last video actually. This one lives Terra Water Surging, max speed, not max speed Timid, because we have speed control. I ran Timid enough for max speed Miraidon. And yeah, that's really for the spread. After the +2, you're basically KOing everything with Barrage with Spell Tag. And draining Terra Fairy is pretty cool because you have a lot of ways to beat other Shadow Rider. I think the combination of Light Screen and Wide Guard means you don't have to force out and opt for a worse defensive Terra like Dark or Normal. Like, you know, they're good in the mirror for that's really it. But Fairy gives you more value versus Zama Zenda and Miraidon and such. So I'm a huge fan of the Light Screen plus Wide Guard to support the Fairy horse here. Moving on, we got Rally Factora. He almost stole the invite as well as a NA player, and he came here with his old reliable. He's been using this team since I believe NIC last year, and it's this Urshifu, Ursaluna, Miraidon, Iron Crown, Incineroar, Whimsicott. It's almost your standard Miraidon team until you look at some of the sets. Focus Sash Whimsicott is not particularly common right now because most of them are Covert Cloak, but I do like Sash a lot because it allows you to run Protect and allows you to take an extra hit, so that's quite nice. Incin, also not your standard set, it's Terra Dragon with AV. AV is not very common in Incineroar because they're oftentimes Safety Goggles or Rocky Helmet. You don't need Safety Goggles, of course, on Miraidon because you have the terrain to block sleep, but AV is quite nice because with Terra Dragon, you can afford to go for Stealth Discharge, which is quite nice. AV also allows you to take like hits from Shadow Rider better, which is quite nice, and just, you know, every special hit ever. So this is a pretty cool set. Adamant is quite nice as well to run because with the AV you don't need as much bulk to make up for it. Adamant hits like a truck too, allows us to be kind of more a Tailwind sweeper, and yeah, Flare Blitz can allow you to KO Rillaboom and KO Chip down Among Us. Iron Crown also not often seen. Terra Ground is mostly synergy with the Miraidon, the Discharge. It also means you wall other Miraidon. The cool part of Crown is being a natural Steel Psychic means you resist Draco and you resist Dazzle, and if you lock yourself a Drift, you can tear ground. So all around, you technically wall out Miraidon, and I think it's actually pretty good in the mirror as well. Attacking Cutter can KO Whimsicott. You have Psyshock for AV Iron Hands. You also Terra Blast Ground to hit Miraidon in hands as well. I went for Max Speed Modest. Actually, we know that Riley is Booster Special Attack because we've seen him on stream and Chase on the same team, and actually faces him as well, and it was Booster Special Attack. And I think they should be at least 150 because Urshifu hits 149 at Adamant, so you outspeed that by 1. And then here we just hit the attack bump, and then 28 HP for optimizing life of recoil. Miraidon, you know, pretty standard of course, but the main difference here is Discharge, which has seen a lot more usage in the past, but everyone's on Terra Fairy Gleam right now. It's also Dragon Pulse, because Riley hates running inaccurate moves, so I respect that. And it's also Terra Ghost. I think Terra Ghost makes sense on this team because there's no Furgraph, so you need ways to deny Fake Out. So Ghost is a pretty cool tech here. And I think I went for Max Speed Timid just for the mirror, just because defensively you can't really. I think Fiora is better defensively and you can probably get away Modest, but Timid you will be moving first and get those faster drifts off, so I think Timid makes a lot of sense here. Ursaluna, this Pokemon is mostly for Shadow Rider and Ice Rider actually. The reason I went for Ice Rider is because if you look at this team, there's not many ways to stop Trick Room. So with this Ursaluna here, I made it min speed, so you can abuse opposing Trick Room from Ice Rider. Sub is really nice at getting the Protect turns right, and then allows you to kind of just click Facade better. And Headlong's of course needed because you need Hit and Center Roar. There's no room for Earthquake here because, well, you'd be hitting your own Pokemon, so yeah. Urshifu, I think Urshifu is amazing with Miraidon. It's usually on the other ones too, a Focus Sash, but Focus Sash on here is on Whimsicott. I really do think Mystic Water Ursh is busted right now. Being able to remove Miraidon's biggest weakness of Chien-Pao Ice Spinner is quite nice. So with Mystic Water here and 196, you have a really good chance to one-shot Chien-Pao through Focus Sash. I made a 140 speed here just for general speed creep, and also for outspeed Smeargle. Next here we have the Snow Zamazenta team. I'm not going to go over this one too much because we've covered this team a lot on this channel so far. It won one of the latest Victory Road Tours. It's been getting consistent top cuts. Federico uses this exact 6 as well. I believe this is the same 6 that was used by him. Everyone has been kind of using different sets. I think he was Terra Electric, this one offered Terra Fairy. The difference now is Zamazenta have all dropped Heavy Slam for Behemoth Bash just for Fairy Ice Rider, like this one here. Fire remains the same set that Federico had, and everything else is the same. But yeah, Zamazenta, one of the strongest Pokemon in the game. This is by far the most consistent archetype for it. You can either run the Snow one, or you can run like the ones with Entei like Marcus did. The last top 8 team we have here is Hard Trick Room. This is pretty straightforward. It's very standard Ursaluna, Indeedee, Hat, Torkoal. This is like the Reg H core that everyone was kind of running back then. But now you Smeargle Cali Ice for better measures in Trick Room as well. This one's interesting with Imprison. So with Imprison Ice Rider, they tend to be a little bit faster. So I creeped my San Antonio spread by 2, so they can get the faster Imprison. And then the Smeargle here is able to be slower than Ice Rider in Trick Room, so you can self-decorate. This is what Alex Underhill did to almost top cut NIC, and I think the slow Smeargle makes a lot of sense. You can technically go fast with Fast Spores as well, but then Decorate gets a lot worse of a abuse in Trick Room for the Glacial. The another cool thing about Imprison Ice Rider is you can afford to go Terra Dragon, which is a really good defensive Terra on it, because the only way to hit Ice Rider after you Imprison is basically Flutter Mane and such, which isn't usually coming against the Hard Trick Room team, right? Hatterene here, Hatterene also gets not many usage, but it did get second place in the Global Challenge, and if you're not facing any Dark types, Expanding Force is so spammable, and Magic Bounce is really good at blocking Among Us, which tend to be brought versus the Hard Trick Room teams, but with a combination of Hat, Flame Orb, and Torkoal that all threaten Among Us, it becomes a lot harder to stop the Trick Room. But yeah, pretty strong Trick Room team. I think that a lot of the Ice Rider teams do look like this right now to be abused Trick Room. It's also really good at being Shadow Rider with that triple normal type. At top 16 here, we have Zacian. Actually, looking at this team is actually kind of funny. It kind of looks like my San Antonio team. It's a 4-mon difference. The only changes are instead of Roaring Wind's Tornadus, and then instead of Ice Rider, of course, it's Zacian. So going all in on the Tailwind instead of the Tailworm aspect of my team. But I think these pieces are still really, really good. Urshifu, Ogerpon, and Landorus are all really good Tailwind abusers, and you have good support, of course, with Ogerpon again, and Among Us for a double redirection to support your restricted. Landorus is also basically a second restricted, and it's really well supported. With that Terra Water, you can follow me away like Wood Hammer, except for once you Terra or like Raging Bolt will follow me. Landorus also makes a lot of sense on this team because you have Rain Dance, so Rain Dance plus Sansir, Rain Dance plus Surging Strikes, and Sansir, Earth Power, and Urshifu. Cover for Zacian's weaknesses quite well. Zacian's really weak to fire types and Incineroar and stuff, so Landorus and Ursh can get rid of that quite well. Zacian's pretty interesting in the current metagame. It's had a few top cuts now, like it did well at San Antonio as well. It's really good versus Miraidon and Ice Rider. I do believe that it does struggle versus CSR and Intimidate and such, but if you do have a good kit for it, with all these partners, I think you get away with it. But I do think that this team does struggle versus CSR. I see no Astro Resist, so you really just have to overwhelm it, which it's definitely possible, but I find that it's quite hard. But yeah, pretty cool take on Zacian. We've seen a lot of similar builds before, usually with Regidrago, but this is the first time I've seen it with like Landorus and Among Us Ursh, very similar to my team, like I mentioned. Going down, we have Yuta's team, or Yuta 6, that was used with some tweaks. So I just replicated Yuta's pace from Worlds that he posted, and it's basically the same sets, like Terra Grass Ice Rider, Terra Water Sash Earth, Cover Cloak Pelipper instead of Life Orb. This is quite interesting, but Cloak is quite nice, of course, dodging Fake Out. And Among Us is the same set. I believe actually was Clear Smog, Protect is Optic Fury and Tear instead, and Valiant is Terra Steel instead of Terra Ghost. But everything else is the same. I think Pelipper Ice Rider is well positioned in the current metagame, just because it's really good in the mirror. It's also really good for the Sun teams going around. Like, if you're a Koraidon or Groudon player going against Pelipper, you're going to feel really, really bad. So, yeah, this team is still pretty strong, in my opinion. And it's cool to see it have other results outside of, the finals of Worlds, of course. So, yeah, quite nice. The last hard Trick Room team we have here is William. And I actually faced William in top 8 of San Antonio, and he brought his exact same team. If I remember correctly, he was also running his slow Smeargle, because I think he went for a slow Decorate in Trick Room, underspeeding his Ice Rider. So I believe the set is correct. Standard Smeargle on these hard Trick Room teams, it's just really good enabling Trick Room, like a Fake Out to get the free Trick Room, having that Spore pressure if you do want to go for Protect on the Spore or Fake Out, they can go for Self Decorate, which is really nice. Urshifu Dark, really good versus Shadow Rider, which Ice Rider hates. And again, that triple normal, we mentioned like Smeargle, Indeedee, Blood Moon. Shadow Rider is going to have a really bad time, including Dark Rush here too. And Choice Band, really powerful with Terra Dark. If you don't have any Terra Fairies or Fighting types, Wicked Blow basically KOs everything. Min Speed, just abuse Trick Room. You can underspeed a lot of like Rillaboom and Sins with this, and just KO them basically. Heart Flame, I believe he was also Impish. His Heart Flame when I faced him was slower than my Landorus, and it was also really bulky, so I just made it my San Antonio Impish spread. It could probably also be Adamant, like Min Speed as well, but I think that this spread also makes sense to get that guaranteed Trick Room will follow me. Indeedee, actually it wasn't Helping Hand, it was actually Heal Pulse. Heal Pulse instead of Helping Hand, because Heal Pulse enables your Ice Rider more, just supporting it. Just because with the Decorate, that's basically your new Helping Hand. And yeah, the Follow Me allows you to set up Trick Room. Psychic is quite nice at hitting Urshifu, and it's also really good versus Miraidon. The combination DD Female, Kali Ice, Blood Moon means you've actually a pretty good Miraidon matchup. The one they notice as well in this team is Terra Poison Ursaluna. Terra Poison Ursaluna, again, is really good versus Iron Hands, so they can't low kick you. It's also really good versus Zama. Otherwise, Zama does destroy a lot of his team. Like Zama beats 1, 2, 3, 4, and even Smeargle. So yeah, you're really relying pretty hard on the Poison Blood Moon. But yeah, very strong team. Next here we have Suica 6 that he used to top 4 the Global Challenge. And yeah, I think this team is pretty strong too. It does have some issues though. I was talking to Shilang, who decided to work with Suica for this global challenge, and he was saying that this 6 has some big issues versus Miraidon still. Like Miraidon Dark Urshifu apparently is really hard for this team, and he also said that I think Kali Shadow was a bit difficult. But I think Kali Shadow is difficult for a lot of Shirai teams anyways. I mean, Kali teams anyways. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But versus Miraidon, I feel like it's a bit harder because you don't have like faster speed control like we did with Tailwind, or you only have one form of Trick Room basically. But one thing to note was Suica's original pace was Water Terra. So Fairy Terra I think does help the Miraidon match a little bit because you're immune to Draco and you resist low kick. But yeah, this team is strong. It's very similar to my San Antonio team, except there's a Grimmsnarl over Roaring Moon, and then there is a Raging Bolt over Amoonguss. More of a damage trading team, I would say. Like Amoonguss allows you to have these slow grinding games with Pollen Puff, but you're kind of just like throwing out damage here, like with Wood Hammer and Ogerpon and Horn Leech. That's really the main thing. Faster Landers and Ursh to abuse Thunder Wave. Also, I believe that these mons have to be faster than the San Antonio one because there's no Tailwind. So I made Landers here just max speed, and made Urshifu also faster for like Smear Goal. I think that's Smear Goal is actually quite important in this team because you don't have Tailwind, so being able to taunt it first is quite nice. One thing to note too is like Grimmsnarl with Thunder Wave allows you to really click certain strikes really well. One annoying thing that we had with our San Antonio team was Ogerpon Rock. So versus Ogerpon Rock teams, you can kind of just click Thunder Wave plus Surge and just get rid of it turn 1. Raging Bolt here has Electro Web, so I made it max speed, so you're always getting those webs first in the mirror bolts. And it also allows you your Ice Rider to move faster. I also creeped our San Antonio spread by a few points, so you can make the most out of E-Speed and also be the fastest Ice Rider, ideally. But yeah, one of the stronger Ice Rider teams right now. I still think my San Antonio team has better tools in other matchups, but Grimmsnarl allows you to play the game a different way. Clicking Thunder Wave is the evil button, so yeah. Next here, we have a top 16 Specs Pagos team. Specs Pagos, I think, has kind of made a resurgence. The Calm sets have been seen in play, but Specs has seen a lot of play on like Tailwind teams or Dondozo teams recently, and I think it's really cool to see come back. Like the best result Specs Pagos has had, forever was like NIC last year with Aurelion, and I feel like since then we haven't seen many like at Worlds or at these other tournaments since Roshi came back. It's all been like CM, like Alex Gomez, and everyone on the CM Pagos will sub. But Terabakos is back, and it's running the Hyper Beam. It's really well supported with Rage Powder Volk here. I like the Volk Arena a lot because it beats Samazena for the Topagos. You can burn it, you can Rage Powder Flame Body it, you can overheat it, and yeah, just protect your Pagos and make sure you can click buttons. Screamtail is also a really cool piece here as well because you can disable Body Press, you can disable Wide Guard for Topagos to spam Starstorm. Tornado here I think is mandatory on these Specs Pagos builds right now because it allows you to move first and just sweep with Starstorm. Smeargle, another common Pokemon I think we've seen a lot in this regional so far, mostly in these Cali Ice teams, but it does support the Topagos quite well as well. Decorate to make the start times even stronger. Usually they have Fake Out, but the Iron Knits here is your Fake Out Mon here instead. Hands I think is for better measure versus Miraidon. But yeah, a pretty cool team. I think Tropicos is actually pretty strong right now, especially with CSR being on the uphill. Going down, we have a Scarflando Cali Ice team, and this looks like the same 6 that Juanfi won with the last Latinum regional, and yeah, it's the same 6, but it's a different Urshifu set actually. It's actually Rapid Strike with Taunt, but the other Pokemon are the same. So I'm not going to really get into too much, this much, really, because it's really just the same team. Terra Fairy Ice Rider, like I mentioned before, is really, really strong right now. It's good versus Miraidon, good versus Zama. And this team just supports it really well. Instant Amoonguss, really classic. Fake Out Spore, Fake Out Glacial, Fake Out Trick Room. Scarflando here for your Miraidon matchup. And Raging Bolt here for those fast E-Webs as well. E-Webs plus Glacial is really good. The cool part of Rapid Strike, I think, over Dark Urge is defensively, you know how to Fire Water Grass Core. And also, I think Urshifu Rapid Strike is just more consistent versus most teams than Single Strike. So, yeah, I think this is pretty cool. The main downside, I think, of this version, though, because you don't Single Strike, is CSR. CSR does look pretty hard here. because you really only have Incident versus Barrage, and you have no way to actually like threaten it turn 1. So yeah. Next, we have some of the craziest teams I've ever seen. So you read this right. This is a regular Zama in top 16 of a regional. I still can't believe it. What does regular Zama do? Well, you can run an item, and you still have Dauntless Shield. So Grassy Seed and Dauntless Shield, you have +2 body press off the rip. So I made this guy's max speed, so you're asking like all the Miraidons and even some of the Zacians we see nowadays. And then Sub's kind of cool here to block Spore and like Will-O-Wisp. Wide Guard, of course, because you always need Wide Guard on Zama to block Astral Barrage and Glacial. And you have Chien-Pao, which has Sheer Cold. I have no idea why it's Sheer Cold, but I'm honestly amazed that Sheer Cold Chien-Pao almost won a regional. And regular Zama. This team is sick, but I have so many questions. But congrats on making top 16 with some of the craziest picks I've ever seen for a regional. So really cool to see here. I still don't know what's Sheer Cold. I feel like Sucker Punch would be better. You don't actually have to priority move on Chien-Pao, but I'm done with the questions. They almost won with this, so that's pretty cool. Ursaluna Blood Moon for a more shattering measure makes a lot of sense. Also, they use Tailwind, and then Among Us to support. Among Us is almost an all these Zama builds right now because you need to beat Dondozo. So Among Us does as well. And I think Rillaboom is just here just to support. Well, actually, you need Rillaboom here for the Grassy Seed, of course. It's also from Miraidon, so that makes sense. So I get some of the concepts, but I really wish this was streamed because I really want to see how this team works. But it's super funny to see Zama in Top Cut, the regular one. The last team here, we have a sort of a Sun room, I guess. You have a Sun mode with a hard Tricker mode with a Torkoal here. So looking at this team, it's kind of strange at how it works. It actually looks a little bit like the William Brown team. He had Smeargle, Ursh, Callie, and instead it was Heartflame instead of Torkoal. He had Ursaluna and a DD. But he's a different terrain mon with Rillaboom here. It's in DD. And different Trick Room Sweepers, right? Torkoal instead of Ursaluna, Blood Moon, and then no Heartflame, of course. But Raging Bolt and Torkoal, it means you have a Sun mode. That's why I kind of call it Sun Room. Raging Bolt here can abuse the Trick Room still, so I made a 4-speed. In Sun, you get that Photosynthesis, you get even stronger. Trick Room, of course, just to underspeed everything. This team really has underspeed control, so I think you're clicking Trick Room most times out of 10. And you also have the... Actually, this one's not a Decorate. So I just made a Fast Sprinkle, so you get the guaranteed fast Spores off into Trick Room. You can also do stuff like Fake Out plus Wicked Blow, Fake Out plus Trick Room. Honestly, I'm not really so sure about all the modes here, because I feel like if you want to be running the Band Dark Urshifu with Trick Room stuff, I'd rather run William's team. But I'm sure that the Sun is probably the help button, like stuff like the Kyogre matchup, which I could see that the Cali Ice team could struggle with. But yeah, that's a cool take on Ice Rider. You don't usually see a lot of these Pokemon on the same field. Like Rillaboom Smeargle is probably the most odd parts of it on these hard Trick Room teams. But I'm sure it's helping the raid matchup. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Rillaboom and Kyogre should beat Scarf, Ursh, and like Kyogre quite well. But yeah, that's going to be it for the top cut teams. Going to take a brief overview on some of the ones that were outside of cut. We already talked about the Suica team, so we're not going over that one much. Aroth, top cut San Antonio with the Alex Gomez team as well. Ran it back, almost made top cut again. Scrolling down. I mean, Arch Rain has kind of come up a bit. We also saw that in a Victory Road Tour. Lunala, Lunala's actually pretty interesting. Lunala almost also made top cut. Yeah, it's CM Lunala. Usually this is like a Calyrex Shadow Rider, but Lunala Beyond here is quite nice. With that Shadow Shield, and Terra Fairy Moonblast hits harder than Draining Kiss, so that's quite nice. But I think Lunala is still greatly outclassed, just because not having spread move on this team really sucks, besides Bleak Wind. At least Astral Barrage is such a busted move. But Lunala is way bulkier, so I think you can play Lunala in a more like grindy defensive game, but it's just so slow is my main issue with it. Scrolling down a bit, a lot of teams we've seen before, like a lot of these standard Shadow Rider, Pagos here. Crino Walking looks interesting, but we did see Michael Zhang almost top cut San Antonio with that as well. My team right here is quite nice to see. Fortress made top 32 on a Kyogre team. Terra Boss, this is just all on offense. It's Talon plus Water Spout. And then I'm guessing Fortresses is here as a win condition versus Trick Room teams because this team is so fast. But yeah, this is actually kind of cool. I get one of Fortresses here, but I wonder if there's any better bonds on this slot. But again, I guess we saw Pari's top 8 with Chesnaught. I think with a very similar role. When you run a Tailwind, you want a secondary win condition to beat all these slower teams with Iron Defense Body Press. So I guess kind of see it. And scroll down. I mean, there's not really anything else that's really crazy. This Tropical Sim actually I want to touch about a little bit. This is I was mentioning earlier, like the Pagos specs have been on these Dondozo builds, and this was created by Kim, a Korean player. They made Marco's LIC winning team, the Charizard one as well. So really cool, creative team builder. And I think this team's actually really strong. Just the combination of Fake Out plus Starstorm, Decorative plus Starstorm, and having that Dozo in the back, it just cleans up so many games. I think this is actually one of the strongest specs builds right now in the current format. But yeah, the more we go down, nothing really crazy. All these teams we've seen already. And yeah, I guess that's really it for the recap. There's a lot of cool teams from this regional, a lot of interesting Pokemon in Top Cut, like Chesnaught, Iron Crown, stuff like that, and the base Zama Senna, so can't believe that. But yeah, really cool to see different results from different restricteds. And I mean, my opinion for EOC I think still stays the same. I still think Shadow Rider is really strong. Dozo, I think popping in one game makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more Miraidon Dozo and Pagos Dozo. I think the CSR Weezing Dozos that we used to see in the past, or like we still see them, but I don't think they're as good right now because they're so linear in how it plays. And I think the Miraidon and Pagos allows for way more mind games than Weezing. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today's video. Hopefully, I'll have a video out before UIC, but I'm gonna have that tournament next for myself, and hopefully I can do well. And there's just so much to cover. I have no idea what to really expect next, but a lot of cool teams and a lot to be prepared for in Regulation G, as shown in this meta recap. But that's gonna be it for today's video, and I'll catch you guys sometime later. Goodbye.